sure. It's good to see all of our city folks here with us today. I know that you've been working diligently on making sure your budget is balanced, being frugal with the citizens' tax dollars. So I'm going to turn, excuse me, I'm going to turn the program over to our city manager, Emily, and let you get started. Also wanted to let you know that you will be able to see the screen. Since our computers aren't connected to the screen, we do have the handout of what's behind us. So didn't want anyone to think we weren't paying attention or not following along because we've got the print version. So Emily, let you go ahead and get started.
Thank you for being here today at a 4 o'clock early meeting. First and foremost, I want to thank each of my department heads that are here and a few that are in some absence. Budget time is never fun for anybody, especially the finance department, when that awkward moment comes when tough conversations are in the room. But everybody walked away with a smile. We were very conservative on 2 areas of enterprise funds that we'll go over today. But the department heads walked away happy. We could ensure with this budget, we are continuing to get them equipment that they need to make sure we do a good job in the community, as well as other assets that we need to continue operations, such as police vehicles. Sometimes we met in the middle, sometimes we gave all, and sometimes we gave none. So I want to thank my department heads that are here for being very positive during this time of year. It's always very hectic for us. All right, so kind of what we'll do tonight, I will go over the budget presentation. As the mayor mentioned, if you have any questions, that will come during the public hearing that we'll have at the 5:30 meeting. So please jot down any questions that you may have. All right, so I want to remind everybody every year, this is kind of the goals that the city council has put forth, and this is what we really focus on at the council retreat. The mayor has mentioned in many open settings that we used to be structured around infrastructure and paving roads. But we're so much more than that. As you saw at the last council meeting, we showed a video that takes what we do and it makes the rubber meet the pavement, and we're off from there to have a good working community. So some of the key points that we discuss at our council retreat and that we have in mind when we're locking in the budget is creating great neighborhoods, connecting citizens to park and recreation, services and improving infrastructure, enhancing historic downtown, economic development, top customer service experience, and leading with a cause. With all of these set forth, I can accurately tell you that they are all depicted in your budget today in some sort of fashion. The progress report for FY24, which was your last budget year, the one we're currently in, the one that is proposed is FY25. So just a snapshot of the progress report that we have accomplished. Many of these projects have been on our books since, when did COVID hit? Was that 2019? 2020. So they've been on our books since 2020 with little to no movement. This year we made great strides working with ESG operations and ESG engineering to make sure that we set forth in what we said we were going to do, not only with the ARPA funds, but in other areas of funding such as TIA and T-SPLOS, where we're able to do extended road paving. So some of the infrastructure projects for the progress report, these were all coupled with the ARPA grant that we got from the state. We have the water line replacement. Everybody's familiar with that, with Tift Avenue and Central. We are wrapping that up. I'm very excited to see that. Right after that, we will be paving. You'll see that on the agenda tonight. We will be hopefully awarding a bid for that. Increasing paving projects and implementing a professional paving index for proper road selection. I have challenged all of the department heads. We no longer can shoot in the dark. We have to know what we're aiming at and why we're aiming it. So with everything that we do, we have data-driven results. If you can show me the data where we have increased community efforts, then I think that may be a good thing to look into. So what we did last year was we sought out a professional company to come in and do a paving index. You guys have seen this at the council retreat as well as in a normal public setting. That tells us our best roads and our worst roads, so we know what we're paving and we know we're paving the right thing, and we can also see our progress from day one until the end. Magnolia Ditch improvements, they have begun. Notice to proceed on that was May 20th, so they will be correcting that drainage issue. And then the wastewater treatment plant improvements for the digester. We also have other areas at the wastewater treatment plant that we will be covering in the next budget year. Commerce Way Streetscape was a huge project for us. That again has been on the books for a very long time. We are 75% complete with that. GIS infrastructure mapping project. In the world that we live in today, it is very hard to keep up with a piece of paper, go back to a book and look at. So with all of this, we are moving towards hopefully one day having a fully staffed GIS department who can easily pull up data-driven information for the city. You have your crime rates, you have your structure fire, you have manholes, sewer lines, everything that can be piled into one map is what we really need. ESG Engineering is working on that. Like I said, they're about 90% complete with that, and I'm very excited to see the second phase of where this kind of takes us as we begin to hopefully one day, maybe next year, implement a GIS department. The landfill, this year the landfill was approved for permitting to fulfill the needs of the community. The landfill is at 90% capacity, so this year the city and the county voted to approve the permit of the expansion. This is not the actual expansion, this is just the permitting phase. It does take quite a long time to get through it. Additional land was also purchased for the landfill for soil mining to decrease the cost of bringing in dirt. When you bring in dirt from a different location, sometimes it can triple in cost versus if it's next door and you can dig it up yourself. So we were successful in locking in that land, so I was very excited about that, as well as getting the county's partnership on that. Fullwood Park was improved with additional security and lighting, as well as an ADA all-inclusive playground. One thing I would also like to add, that was partially done with product development funds that goes through our tourism department right now, or tourism right now. And they just finished the disc golf course at Fullwood Park. This is the first one in Georgia that is an interactive disc golf, kid-friendly, adult-friendly. If you're into disc golf, this is on an app for you. If you're traveling through, you can see where the closest disc golf courses are. So it's going to bring those tourists off of I-75 into our downtown and into Fullwood Park. That was a $16,000 project that was funded through product development funds. That comes from the city's hotel motel fund. Facility improvements were much needed throughout the city. We had many leaking roofs, floor renovations, and exterior improvements to increase the life of our buildings. You cannot put an employee in a building that has a leaking roof, or it is leaking and now mold has grown. During my short time and year and a half of being city manager, I have been to the departments, paid attention to our buildings and how they look in all of our facilities. So last year we really honed in on some improvements to our buildings for the fire department, the main station and the north station. Community development. The theater was a very large project. We had lots of water infiltration from the back wall that was seeping into our basement, so we were able to get that corrected through a grant. And then our senior center. I don't know if you know this, but it has leaked for a very long time. We sunk funds into that to make sure the building no longer leaks and we don't have any issues. We did check in with Miss Fran after our last tsunami that we had, and the building leaked zero. So this is absolutely great and it extends the life cycle of our facilities. And then equipment purchases that were needed for efficient operations. We got a pumper truck for the fire department, police vehicles. We are now on an annual rotation to make sure that we have the best of the best when it comes to protecting our community. Service vehicles and much more was added. So that's your snapshot of this year. And as we'll move into the FY25 proposed budget, some of the FY25 highlights that we have a 3% cost of living for employees. I would like to remind you that this excludes sworn personnel. As you remember, our police officers got a $3 increase not too long ago. So this 3%, they will forego that. Every other employee will receive a 3%. There were a few administrative employees that we looked at. There's a DCA, what's called the GOMI survey. It's a wage and salary survey that we're able to look at and make sure that we're comparable with other municipalities around us or in similar size as us. So we did look at that to make sure we are taking care of our employees. As you know, that is a very large overhead cost, and we have to make sure our employees are taken care of. $1.1 million will be an additional to the GMA pension fund. We've had this conversation many times. The city was very far behind. Many years ago, when it comes to the retirement plan, we had to make some changes. Some were for the better. Others actually cut back on the pension plan. Just a little tidbit for you. January of 2020, our pension plan was 77% funded. Your goal is to be about a 100% funded, and what that means is every year your amount that you have to send into your pension plan decreases the higher that you're funded. So we were underfunded by $7.3 million in 2020. In 2022, we did a little better. We were 84% funded, but we were still underfunded by $5 million. In 2003, which was last year, our pension fund was 92% funded. We were underfunded by $2.2 million. Our goal this year was to make sure that we are funded, or maybe overfunded, to make sure that we can take that additional $1.1 million next year and we can move it around in other areas that we see fit, because we are very financially sound in our pension plan. So this year, I'm glad to say that with the additional $1.1 million that will go into the pension fund, we will be 96% funded. It's very hard to be 100% funded because of attrition of employees, but as the actuarial report reads, we are underfunded by $1,056,224. So the $1.1 million will ensure that we are overfunded next year, and it opens up other areas to offer other benefits for us. So I'm very proud of the pension plan. 8%, what we're looking at for medical increases, medical cost, insurance is not something to play with. We always expect that there's going to be an increase. We are projecting what is built into the budget, an 8% increase for medical insurance to employees. We had a 15% unexpected property and liability insurance increase. We did shop around to make sure that even with the increase, we got the best possible rate, and I was really shocked to see there were other GERMA cities within the state that received up to a 35% increase. We were very lucky with a 15% increase. Our mod rate is very low. That falls in with workers' comp and other areas. All of that is looked at when we look at this stuff. So 15% increase, although we were blindsided from it, I'm very thankful that we didn't have what other cities had. We had a 17% electrical increase from Georgia Power. This was as well unexpected. 17% to electrical expenses is a lot when you're paying for street lights, I-75 lights, and everything that's encompasses there. And then a 3% increase to the ESG operations contract. I would like to remind you that this year we increase in revenue with expenditures under budget. We will have a net gain in the general fund for FY24. The fund balance is $15.6 million, which is 12 to 13 months of reserves by the end of the fiscal year. FY24, we will contribute about 1.8 into the reserve fund balance. All right, so getting into your actual budget. This is your budget funds, just a snapshot. In your budget books, you do have the details of where each of these comes from. As you can see, I have all of the funds on the left side, the FY24 budget in the middle, that's the budget we're in now, and then the proposed budget of FY25. The general fund, you will see there's a slight increase. There is an increase of $464,000. The gas and solid waste fund, these were two enterprise funds that we were very conservative on this year, given gas, what we're projecting to be a gas decrease, as well as the solid waste fund. The gas fund, we are under budget from last year, $1.2 million, so we are not spending as much this year in the gas fund. And then the solid waste fund, we are under 1.3 what we were last year. The ARPA funds that you see here, last year we had $7.7 million. This year we have a little over $4 million. This is expected. We have to allocate these funds by December 2024. The state's terms and allocation is that we have to have contractors on site or a notice to proceed ready to go. If not, we have to forfeit that money back to the state. So it's very important that we finish our projects and get those funds allocated out. The SPLOST fund is doing very well. I would like to remind you that we have a Georgia Fund 1 investment account with our SPLOST 6. We put $10 million into there as of just the month of April. That account brought in $44,000 just in interest alone. So very smart financial move to move some funds to the Georgia One account, and we operate off of interest, which is definitely a good thing. Hotel motel funds, as you can see, we are up there a little bit. We have increased travelers to the city of Tifton. With the account holding $3.9 million right now, we have to be very creative in how we spend these funds. The theater and the Main Street program are both funded through hotel motel funds. So the more tourists and visitors that we have in town, the higher budget that you're going to see for both of these to keep bringing people in. And then just a fun statistic for hotel motel, went back to look at previous years to see kind of how we're tracking. The budget of FY22, we brought in $750,000. This past year, FY23, we are bringing in $804,000. So as you can see, every year it increases. We do track this by the month, so we can go back and look each month. The events that we have, the festivals that we have, are they truly beefing up our hotel motel fund, or is it fluff? So this gives us, numbers don't lie, this gives us the information that we need to make sure those are successful. Does anybody have any questions about the budget funds for an overall picture? Okay. With ARPA funds, increased revenue from hotel motel, many grants that we've gotten, we'll go over the grants in a little bit. Last year we operated on a $73 million budget. This year we're operating on an $80 million budget. You have to consider in the grants that we got that had zero match, that goes into this number, as well as ARPA funding that goes into this number. All right, so your general fund, if you would like a detailed explanation, you can flip to your book in page 16 and it will give you the everything in detail. This is just the highlights for us. So as you can see, our two biggest revenue generators is lost property tax and intergovernmental agreements. Local option sales tax is the first thing, and as we kind of digest these numbers and know what it means, we have really brought the bacon home with local option sales tax. Our property taxes are $20,000 less than local option sales tax that everybody puts into, which includes our travelers that's coming through here. Tifton is a county seat for many small towns that don't have a Walmart or a large grocery store. People come here to shop. And so this is just another example why these taxes are so important, and they actually can help decrease your property taxes at a given point in time. Local option sales tax in the FY21 budget, we brought in $3.4 million. The growth of that in FY22, we brought in $3.7 million. In FY23, we are projecting $4 million, and we are about $500,000 off of that. So as you can see, the past 3 years, local option sales tax continues to grow, which is great for property owners in the community. The next thing I want to bring up is the property tax. We do have that set on projected numbers. As of Friday, I did receive the very preliminary numbers from Hayward from the county. I've been in contact with Chad, our tax commissioner, Friday and today to really understand the rollback, if there will be a rollback, how much the rollback will be with the reevaluation or reassessment that we have. Again, this is projected numbers only. I want to remind you of that. We were very conservative with this number. We feel very positive that it's going to be around the $4 million. Within the coming weeks, Chad will have all of our numbers to us, and we will come back to you with the finals of kind of what we need to do. Occupational taxes is another one that I would like to call out. We had a budget this year, and we have exceeded that budget by almost $90,000, which is really great. That is a thriving economic development community. People are coming here, they're setting up shop, they're setting up businesses, which makes our life a lot easier, and people in the community as we do operate off of revenue. Another thing I'd like to call out is your distilled spirit tax, which is your alcohol. Last year we opened up liquor stores within the city of Tifton. We did see an increase to that we were very conservative this year as we looked at our projected numbers. We do understand this year our revenues will be inflated from alcohol sales. And the reason that is because once you open the liquor store, you have to stock the liquor store. So we're getting revenue, we're getting the sales tax off of all of that for the wholesaler for purchasing that. This year they won't be restocking a whole store. So we did take that into consideration as we locked in these numbers. License and permits is another one that I would like to bring out. Although this is only 2% to your revenues, 2% matters at the end of the day. It's $500,000. But we are up in building permits and inspections this year by $32,000. Again, this is another sign of a great thriving community. And then another one that I'm very proud of, and I fuss with Larry about it all the time, is our interest income. I want you to take a look at what smart financial decisions and investing our funds can do for us. This year alone, we are expecting $565,000 just in interest. That also takes the burden off of the property owners. All right. The next page is the general fund expenses. Council, in your book, page 19, gives you your details. With this, as you can see, Public Works, Fire, and Police are our three heaviest expenses that we have with the city. They may be the heaviest expenses, but they are very important to us. The police budget comes in at 30% of the budget, Fire at 18%, and then Public Works at 24%. Does anybody have any questions about the overall general fund expenses, the snapshot?
Management and city clerk. Looks like FY 24 in management it was 274.4. FY 25 114.892. What is that, and what's the?
Yes, so Jessica actually operates out of multiple budgets.
Sure.
So what we did under the accounting classifications, the state does allow to have a city clerk budget. So we separated out a city clerk budget to make sure it's more streamlined, and it's a lot easier for us to keep up with what is that office truly spending. Jessica operates, well, she will operate off of that one. You have a general fund budget and then a management budget that you have multiple POs that would possibly come out of. So this is just to streamline. So you will see a decrease in the management budget, but you're going to see when you look at the city clerk's budget, there was nothing there last year. This is a new account that we put in.
So it basically just took the 24 management and split it into two.
That's right.
Okay,
yes, to make
enough.
sure it's easily trackable. Right. And I can also tell you, as we went through the budget with the department heads, the stuff that just don't make any sense, and you ask the question, why do we do it this way? And nobody really knows. Well, we have the ability to change that, and it doesn't hurt anything, especially if it makes our job easier, being able to look at the budget and say, this is how much our city clerk needs in these areas for what she does. So good catch there. That is exactly what happened.
Fair enough.
All right. Did anybody have anything else? No. All right. The Water Enterprise Fund. This is on page 42 for you in your book. This year, FY23, we did implement a rate increase that was needed for capital infrastructure projects and equipment. We also invested $12 million in a Georgia Fund 1 account that yields 5.39% interest. In the month of April alone, we generated $53,179 just off of interest in the Georgia Fund 1 account. Again, another very solid financial move that our money is making money for us. Let me rephrase that. Our joint fund with the county is making money for us. The water fund capital layout, our infrastructure this year, is $4.1 million with equipment totaling $677,000. $4.7 million is the total for the capital fund. Total revenues and expenditures, as you can see, the bottom line of these, the totals match. That is a sign of a balanced budget. I would like to remind you the city has to have a balanced budget each year. So our revenues and expenditures should match to make a balanced budget. So you have your water fund sales at $4.1 million. Interest earned, we're projecting $480,000. A fund balance used was $3.5 million, which gives the total of $8.2 million to the water fund. Our expenditures, operating cost is $3.5 million. Capital outlay is $4.7 million, and our debt service is $54,000. Again, totaling $8.2 million. Again, you have a balance. All right. The sewer enterprise fund, again, we implemented the rate increase in 2023 to meet the needs of capital infrastructure and projects. Both of these funds are operating very well and doing exactly what we needed to do. The sewer fund for the capital outlay, the infrastructure, you can see is $687,000. Equipment is $930,000. That total capital outlay is $6.1 million. And then your revenues and expenditures, your sewer fund sales is $5.1 million. We're projecting interest $140,000. Your fund balance used was $865,000, which gives us a total of $6.1 million. And then our expenditures, your operating cost is $4.4 million. Your capital outlay is $1.6, with your debt service at $109,000, and so you have a total balance budget of $6.1 million. All right, our gas fund. We did implement a gas increase in FY23 to meet the demands and the needs of the community. This coming up year, MGAG is expecting gas sales to decrease by 11%. So the FY25 budget is more conservative due to the expected drop in revenue sales that we're going to be receiving. Your capital or your gas fund capital outlay, your infrastructure is $720,000. Equipment is $120,000, which gives your total of $840,000 for capital outlay. Your total revenues, the gas fund sales is $4.9 million. Projected interest is $200,000. The gas rebate is $250,000. And then your total expenditures on that far right side, your operating expense is $4.5 million. Capital outlay is $840,000. Debt service is $14,000, which shows you a balanced budget for revenues and expenditures of $5.4 million for the gas fund. We get those projected sales from MGAG. Honestly, Larry, do you not have you?
Yeah, last
Have
year
you called
was
Eric? Hi.
high.
Did you get that? Yeah. So they give us our projected sales every year, kind of where we're going to go with that. They typically handle all of that. We also monitor gas prices on a monthly basis. That price fluctuates. So Donna Pate at ESG Operations keeps up with that for us, changes the gas rate, as well as Tara in our billing department. Those fluctuate almost like gas that goes in your car.
Sure.
So we just kind of go with what they say. Eric's never, that's right, Eric's never strode us wrong. All of this does come from MGAG, which is the Georgia Municipal Gas Association. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Y'all are quiet. All right, your solid waste enterprise fund. We have not had a tipping fee increase since 2018. In looking at our surveys and our studies, the average in Southeast Georgia is about $46. I do think that in the very near future, we will need to sit down to have a conversation with the county to talk about tipping fees. Many times with increases, if you are standard to do them every 2 years, every 3 years, every 5 years, you typically don't see a higher spike. People typically don't know, not that we're trying to slide anything under, but an extra 25 cents to a household is better than a $5 increase to a household if you do it little by little. I do think in the very near future, our time is coming where we need to sit down and we need to discuss tipping fees with ourselves as well as our partners at the county. I would like to remind you, this is a joint enterprise fund. This year, again, we purchased land for soil mining. Approval for landfill expansion and permitting work has begun. The FY25 budget was more conservative due to expenses with permitting. And we had the large land purchase that we had this year, so we were a little conservative this year. On the left side, your solid waste capital outlay, equipment is $270,000, and then cost for engineering, water and methane testing, and erosion control. This is your typical operations you would have for the landfill. So that comes in at $790,000. Your total revenues, waste sales is 4.1 million. Interest earned is 450,000. Fund balance used was 436,000. Your total expenditures, your operating expense is $3.7 million. Your capital outlay is 270,000. And then your closure that we set aside for post-closure is $963,000. So with your revenues and expenditures, again, you have a balanced budget with this enterprise fund at $4.9 million. All right, next I want to talk about grants. This is something that is very important to me. If we can go after state-funded grants, federal-funded grants, private grants, whatever it may be, that always allows us to do additional projects we would not be able to do without this funding. And it also helps keep property taxes low, and it helps in all other areas. For the council, in your book, pages 52 through 66, we'll give you the full detail of all of these. So you have your ARPA water and sewer grant. We will be wrapping that up this year. With the grant, you did have to match a certain portion of that, so the matching portion will come out of Enterprise and SPLOST 6. I would like to remind you that this was set in stone with the state and the grant application before my time, but it is my job to carry it out. As you can see, all the construction going around town and the projects that we're completing, we're definitely getting the most bang for our buck for the community. The CHIP grant, I'm very proud of that. This year we were awarded the CHIP grant. It's the first time that we've been awarded this grant and focused on housing. So we are looking at improvements for the community. We have already started that with many candidates that's come forth and been approved. But the city only has a $40,000 match with that, so we are very happy. Paving is a very hot topic in the Tifton community. My promise to you and your promise to the community is that we would expand paving more than just what a grant allocates. LMIG 23, it will be on your agenda tonight, again awarding the bid. But this paving project, our grant was $250,000. We are matching that this year with 1.2 million. The 750,000. That is, I will tell you, that is increased. You will hear about that at the council meeting tonight. What we were proposing to do is to go forth with this and then do a budget amendment at a later date. But we, instead of the 750,000, I can tell you the city match was $900,000. We have T-SPLOST money to do it as well as other SPLOST. There is no reason that we should not be increasing this to pave the roads that we need. So hopefully we'll get that award granted tonight, and they will be in paving. With that paving project, again, is Fifth Avenue and Central Avenue and many other areas throughout the city. This is the largest paving that we have done in a very long time. We also have LMIG 24 locked into this for paving. We have kind of a placeholder in there of $250,000. I do expect that to be more as we get our figures in from the engineer. And then we took advantage of the LMIG 2024 supplement paving that had a zero city match to it. So I will gladly take $333,000 for this community to increase our roads. Very happy with that. I also want to call out the 8 grants that we have no city match for. And what that means is that you go out for these grants, they're not asking the city to match it with any monetary value. You play by the guidelines of the grant, but for 8 grants that we will be applying for this year or have applied for, the city is out no money. This is money to us to help improve the community. So kudos to my staff for looking into these. They do a great job of bringing up ideas, different things that we haven't looked into before. We're always looking a way to save a buck. All right. And then lastly, FY '25 capital projects. This is combined funds. I gave you your snapshot of FY '24 at the very beginning. Now I want to give you your snapshot of FY '25. We will continue our Fullwood Park renovations. It has been a very long time since Fullwood Park has had any TLC that the city has given it as part of our property. But this year we will be paving the street through there. Restroom upgrades are getting ready to be launched. Stage renovation. Playground equipment number 2, we finalized some renderings on Friday. So we are moving right along with the second playground, locking that in for that project. Sidewalk connectivity project. When I first started as the city manager, I had so many people would call, and so many of you would call, your constituents would reach out and say, this sidewalk goes to nowhere. The sidewalk in front of my house just stops. What is this? And so when we did the paving index for our street, they offered a subset to do sidewalk improvements and to show you where you need sidewalks and to look at that connectivity project. This was the second phase of that, so the company is still working on that. We do have $250,000 allocated within the budget that once we get that back and we can look at true connectivity, maybe it's to ABAC, maybe it's to downtown, maybe it's in the URA district to get to a pocket park that we may have, or just to get to Highway 82 to get out of the food desert and find something. For those people who do not have a form of transportation or they have a bicycle and they enjoy it, this will be great for them. So we do have the sidewalk connectivity project in there. Again, increased road paving projects. The fire department training facility upgrades, that building is extremely old. It is becoming a safety concern for as many times as it's been caught on fire and put out, caught on fire and put out. So we are looking at improving the training facility upgrades. We will use lost funds to do this. The lift station improvements to our sewer system. So we have a few lift stations that we will be putting in bypass pumps for to help in case of a mechanical failure. They will continue to work, as well as a grant that we had on the last page for $762,000. It's a FEMA grant to help with generators, portable and fixed. You remember many years ago, I think it was Hurricane Michael that came through. We had a generator that went out on one of our wells. So we now have generators on hand with a grant that helped fund these, as well as bypass pumps at the lift station. So much needed improvements. The splash pad engineering, in conversation with the Downtown Development Authority, they have agreed to go in as a partnership to look at a splash pad in downtown Tifton. We actually had a great meeting on Friday to talk about some ideas of where a splash pad could go. With their help of that, we have no hard numbers of how much that's going to cost us, but I do have numbers set aside for engineering of the splash pad to make sure we go ahead and we know what this looks like going in, possibly look at some grant funding opportunities with the partnership of the Downtown Development Authority. Police vehicles, again, we will keep the rotation of police vehicles this year to make sure that our cars don't break down while they're heading to a call. A traffic signal upgrade project. This is much needed within the community. We have many older traffic lights that the wires are going bad on them. The loops aren't working. There's multiple issues. This is a multi-year project. This is very expensive. So we'll take a few intersections at a time as we kind of go through this. And then the Main Street program, with the additional hotel motel funds that we are bringing in, the Main Street program has additional funding for events. Again, data-driven results. Hillary, do you want to share how much your loyalty cards tracked in downtown Tifton? Yes, through our Most Recent program, we were able to track over $259,000. That's $4 that I'm able to track, tell you what is going on and where it's going in our downtown. So that helps us target those individuals who are shopping, as well as the ones who are not shopping, to inform them about downtown. But data-driven results is what it's about. Sinking these funds into programs, but knowing that it's going to be successful. So the Main Street budget did see an increase in funding this year. And then theater improvements. Our theater has been, for a better part, a lack of words, kind of been the redheaded stepchild towards the city. I'm going to say that. Where's Alex? Alex here? So last year we started with the back facade with the flooding that we had, but we're not going to stop there. The theater has so much potential. There's so many people that it draws into downtown when it is open, and they're looking to dine and to shop, and it's a domino effect, really. So this year we have some challenges. We're hoping to do some block bookings to bring in some larger names and talent, but we're looking to repair the front part of the ceramic glass, to repair or paint, dressing room upgrades for downstairs. That saw a lot of water damage from the flooding. Now that we have the flooding almost stopped, we will begin starting those renovations for paint, countertops, lighting fixtures. It is very outdated, as well as new stage curtains, and that may seem silly up there, but it's a lot more expensive than you think. All right, does anybody have any questions about the budget? I do have one other topic I'd like to bring up. Do y'all have any other questions about the
I
budget?
don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay.
Carry on.
All right. Once the budget is locked in, just so the public understands kind of how this works, I've had one person reach out from the community. But how this works is the department heads, myself, staff, supervisors, we sit down and we really lock in the budget. When I say lock in, for us, we lock in. This is what we need, and this is what we want. And we kind of differentiate between the two, and where it falls at the end shows us if we have to give away or give some. With that, last year, I can tell you, once I locked the budget in, it was transmitted to you in May. The city manager does not make any changes once it's transmitted. To me, that is, I would say, kind of borderline unethical. As you review your books through the previous week, I do not want to present something to you that has changed. It is not my job to change it once it has been transmitted. So making sure that we are transparent, not only to the community, but myself and our staff to you is very important. Once this budget has been transmitted, I did receive some information. The library had reached out. In the past, they were at about $158,000. Last year, we had a surplus of ARPA funds that allowed us to give them an additional $12,000 to help at the library. Ourselves, as well as many other entities, and the library, sure, has unexpected increases. You have a property and liability increase for insurance that is built into your budget. You have an 8 to 10% increase for medical insurance that is built into the budget. You had a 17% increase for electrical costs that was built into the budget. All of these is a kind of a blindsided thing. So this year, what we had to do to make sure our operations were good, the budget was still intact, it was a good budget, a good solid number. We did decrease the library's funding back to the $158,000. Last year's funding, my intention was for it not to be an ongoing thing, but to be a one-time, you're doing a great job. We had a surplus of funds. So this year we have backed off at $158,000 versus the $170,000 from last year. When Karen called me about this, sent me an email. I did explain to her that the budget has been transmitted. I can't make any changes once this happens. So I'm going to open up the floor and ask for your comment on this. I would like to tell you, I have spoken to my counterparts at the Board of Education, as well as the county. The county has increased their funding this year to $15,000, additional $15,000. The school board, they gave last year, they're giving again this year, and they're giving $20,000. So the county part and the school board part and our part, we're definitely putting in money for the library. We are a partner with the library. But with the additional expenses that we had this year, I don't see us being able to do the 170, but if it is your wishes that you want to do that, I can sit down with Larry and we can see what we could do to make other exchanges within the budget.
Yeah, I'm all about kids and educational reforms from the library. I don't know what the deal is. You and Larry can sit out and see what's there. I'm all support for the library and what they're doing over there. So I like to see what they're thriving, how they are thriving. So I'd like to consider it.
Okay. With the additional fundings that other entities are putting in?
Yeah,
it's a challenge. We have so many entities that we fund. Um, and every year, everything increases for everybody. I mean, we're seeing that with, like you said, with just insurances, with different things. Fortunately, we are in a good, strong financial position. I think we've been very, very good partners with our library. With the additional funding from the school system and from the county, that more than covers that roughly $1,000, maybe some change. I think we're going to see more demand on the city participating in other organizations. We have an urban redevelopment agency that's in its infancy that we committed, to help that part of our community where we've not put money before. We have our Downtown Development Authority. Like I said, we had a great meeting on Friday looking at some various projects that aren't just downtown centric, they're very community centric, and they do match our guiding principles for our future, particularly the one connecting citizens to park and recreation and enhancing our downtown and economic development. I think we've got enough on our plate without increasing that funding personally, but I'm just one vote, so that's just my 2 cents. And I think the library, I'm like you, MJ, I think the library's doing an incredible job. There's no disputing that.
That's right. And
I think they
the
are.
city has, given, maybe not in monetary value, even this year, I can't tell you, Alex has allowed them to use the theater at no charge. So
Right.
that, to me, it's a partnership.
Yeah.
And again, we are still funding $158,000 for operations.
Well, for myself, today was supposed to be the first finance meeting, which will give me an enlightenment on the lay of the land dealing with the library. And unfortunately, that didn't happen, which doesn't give me any information that I really need to be an advocate for it, being on the committee. So I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting with Karen face to face and get an understanding of all of the financial aspects of the library. Again, I'm brand new to the committee, and today would have been actually my first full meeting. So unfortunately, it didn't happen today. So hopefully tomorrow, which my goal is to try to meet with her personally with the whole finance team, because I thought today would have been a perfect day for the finance meeting to happen, which will bring me on board to have fully understanding all the aspects of the financial side of things. So being a part of the city as well, I definitely understand our budget and that we truly are giving an enormous amount of funding as well as other entities in Tift County area. So as far as myself, I'm looking forward to a one-on-one sit down. But at this point, I definitely have to side with the city on things. That's the first part. All right.
Anybody else? All right, go ahead. Lester serves on the board for the library, so I guess what we could do, the 2 that has spoken up, and the one, if you'll meet with them and just kind of report back and let us know. Karen
Yes.
sent me an email last week, late Friday afternoon. She responded to meet today, and unfortunately today with our meetings, we just wasn't a good time. I have not heard anything back, so hopefully that'll come to fruition.
I definitely think if they're asking for additional funding or for us to go back to what we funded them last, that that with Lester being as their representative and also representing us, I think that he should meet
I
with
agree
them
with that.
Yeah.
and talk with them, see what, open to hear anything. So maybe we can explain like, okay, here's what we need the extra money for.
Right.
Come back, report to us, and then we'll decide from there.
Yeah.
Can anybody explain how the Library Foundation, or could you ask that question? Because I know none of our other boards have a foundation that's fundraising for programming. And I know the library every year, the Library Foundation, pardon me, every year has a big fundraising event, usually a band and a dinner and things like that. And I don't understand how that foundation contributes. If that's something, Lester, if you don't mind checking into that, I'd love for URA to have a foundation, or, you know, some of our Keep Tiff Beautiful, or whoever it may be,
Yeah.
you know, so that puts also a different slant on, but I don't know how that money's collected and used.
Right,
So if
yeah.
you could find that out, I think that would be helpful in our conversation you
no
could bring
problem.
back.
Okay, all right, well, we will keep it at where it's at until, we report back. All right, does anybody else have any questions about the budget? No? All right, well, that concludes our budget presentation for the FY '25 budget.
All right, well, we will, it is 10 till 5, so we will call this meeting closed. We can't start our council meeting until 5:30 because that's the advertised time. So if anyone has any errands you want to run, return some phone calls, you've got some time between the two meetings. And we'll reconvene at 5:30 and start our workshop meeting.